Come back to me with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Trees do bend, though straight and tall, so must we to others call. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. The wilderness will lead you to your heart, where I will speak. Integrity and justice with tenderness you shall know. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. You shall sleep secure with peace. Faithfulness will be your joy. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. These words from the prophet Hosea are God's invitation, God's eternal invitation to each of us, and the invitation that God holds out to us specifically as we embark upon this Lenten journey. This is the first Sunday of Lent. And to this I want to say, Happy Lent. Now that's not something we often hear. Usually Lent is the time to moan and groan, time to look at how depraved and sinful we are, look at all of our sinfulness and all of the things that, if we continue to indulge them, might land us in purgatory or hell. But instead of looking at Lent through those eyes, I say, Happy Lent. And I say Happy Lent because I tend to be like Pope John Paul II, who once said, if there is a hell, I can't believe there's anybody there. If we truly believe in a God that loves us without condition, then how can there be a hell? Or how can there be a purgatory that we are condemned to spend eternity in because we're human? Because we're human. God created us to be human beings. God created us to experience the fullness of the human condition. And in creating us as human beings, we have forgotten. We have forgotten our original nature as one with God. We have forgotten our original divine nature as love. We aren't sent to experience the human condition as some sort of punishment. No, we're sent here to be human and to see what that's like. And in that forgetting, to remember. To remember that in the struggles, in the challenges, in the violence and the fear that are all inherent and part of the human condition, that we are never separate from God's love. We are never separate from our home in complete oneness with love. But it is easy to forget. And as we look upon the world today, as it becomes more violent, more fearful, more tense, where more and more people are experiencing lack and hunger and poverty, where more and more extremists are acting out their own fears with terrible violence, it is easy to get distracted, to get drawn away from the eternal, unconditional, abundant love of God, and then to become afraid ourselves. And it is when we are afraid that we act in non-loving ways. It is this fear that we seek to root out during this period of Lent. To identify all those places within us where we have forgotten love, where we have forgotten God. To identify all those places within us that are triggered by the external events of the world. All of the places within us where we are tempted to be afraid and tempted to respond out of that fear with actions that are non-loving. We are never without God. We are never outside the presence of love. And it is during this Lenten journey when we are invited to remember that. Not to pour over our sinful behaviors, not to look at our compulsions and our addictions, and then to punish ourselves for simply being human. Instead, we're invited to just be aware of when we are tempted to be afraid, where we are tempted to feel anxious or worried or fretful about our own lives and about the circumstances of our world. And when we are afraid, to turn back towards God. Come back to me with your whole heart, God implores of us. Come back to me. Come back to the place of love. Come back to the place of comfort and safety and peace that we can only find in our connection with God. This is our invitation during Lent, to return again and again and again and again to God every time we are afraid. As we turn again and again and again to God, a foundation is laid beneath our feet. A foundation of safety, of contentment, of peacefulness. And we become like a deeply rooted oak tree, no longer bendable by the external circumstances of the world. We may look at the violence and the fear that is wreaking havoc on our world from a place of empathy and compassion. We may hold those places of violence in our prayer, hoping and praying that they be restored from fear to love. And we are invited to return again and again to God, attentive to our own journey, attentive to our own fears, attentive to our own temptation to act in non-loving ways because of those fears. This is the invitation during Lent, to come back to God with our whole heart, to come back to God with our whole mind, our whole being, our whole soul, our whole body, our whole person. To remember more and more fully our original nature as one with God, one within ourselves, one with each other, and one with all of creation. This is our invitation during Lent, to come back to God, to come back to ourselves, and to remember fully the peace and the love that we are. Happy Lent.